now. Alan Quinlan is going to join us in a moment to talk about the rugby. Here's Johan van Graan speaking after Munster's loss to Leinster on Saturday evening.
I thought the first one cost us 14 points, and we worked pretty hard over the last few weeks to work on our composure when we go a score or two down, and I thought we did that fantastically well. Came back to 14-12. On the second one, I think it was the 42nd minute. It was a 14-point swing. We got called back with a certain try, and then there was a call made. The opposition went to the corner, and then they scored a try. I guess all I can say is you want consistency. Oh, look, if the referee thought that there was interference with the blue player, then the laws of the game says then it's got to be a penalty try and a yellow card, and he just made that decision, so I'll stick with his decision.
So Johan van Graan being somewhat diplomatic in the aftermath of the victory for Leinster over Munster at the Aviva on Saturday night. Alan Quinlan is here to talk to us about this. The refereeing was abysmal. There was a series of events and it seemed mostly to go one side. I saw some of the Leinster fans complaining that Munster were offside the entire first half, but notwithstanding, maybe they were. The grounding on the first try I thought was a little bit dodgy. The 4 penalties under the post, dodgy. The deliberate knock-on, which led to a penalty from which Leinster scored their try, actually leads to a breakaway try for Munster. I think the yellow card and the penalty try is he got no option once he thinks that that's the rule. Yeah. But the rest of them is it changes the game.
Yeah, it was really poor. I think it was really poor performance by Ben Whitehouse and his officials, Dan Jones and
I think your mic is off there, so you were at this game as well, on.
Yeah, the poor refereeing performance obviously replicated with the fact that it was mostly Leinster fans in the ground. The fact of the matter is that it was still as Alan tries to figure it out.
There you go. The mute button's on. Mute.
We can chat about the whole rivalry in a moment as well, but ultimately, I think you were making the point beforehand that it's going to be half a Leinster team playing out there against Munster this weekend. They're really only 4 players away from their starting Leinster team, and the manner with which Munster played, it was their best performance of the season. But if the refereeing decisions were all correct, Munster would have won that game. I think that is the case, and given the supposed chasm between the two sides, I think Munster can come away from this pretty satisfied, because ultimately it's a derby. You want to beat your closest rival, but ultimately it's so early in the season that this is a barometer of where you're at, and I think Munster can be very satisfied where they're at.
I think they're satisfied. The Glasgow and Cardiff games were horrendous from this year, and that was their third away game, and it was a much better performance. You kind of I have a fair bit of optimism, but then you think Furlong is missing, Sexton is missing, Ringrose is missing. Who's the other one you're talking about?
Well, I would say there was 4 players playing for Leinster that wouldn't be in the ballpark for starting. So you'd have O'Loughlin, you'd have Bent, you'd have Tracy, and you'd have Ross Byrne. So you take away the 4 of them, you put in your starters, you put in Ringrose, you put in Sexton, you put in Furlong, and you put in Sean Cronin, who's probably going to start. But even there's kind of a question about the gap there, that I don't think it was as weak in the Leinster team as a lot of Leinster fans would like to tell you.
No, it wasn't as weak. Well, but you take 3 quality internationals like that, okay. But then Munster could argue, look, Murray's missing, Chris Farrell is missing, Taute is not back to full fitness, John Ryan is missing, a few options for him, particularly in that centre partnership there. Dan Goggin, I thought, played really well, and Sam Arnold, but that little bit of touch of magic, they had a lot of ball, 65% possession. At one stage it was 77%. So Munster had so much ball. I think the frustrating point, and the Leinster fans will probably, that you're mentioning there, are saying, well, Munster were offside. Absolutely. There was loads of incidents in the game that could have went either way. There was entries into breakdowns, but it was the big moments, the crucial times. The penalty try for me was, look, it's probably a penalty try. There's no major issues with that. Look, Keith Earls touched him from behind. Would he have caught the ball? The pass was bad from Gibson Park. But look, if it was the other way around, Munster people would want a penalty try and the yellow card. So fair enough with that. Cost them 14 points. It was a big moment in the game, and it was a bit of naivety from Munster defensively on that side of the pitch for the initial break for that penalty try. The one where Sam Arnold tackles Robbie Henshaw is really harsh. It's really harsh.
It makes no sense.
And the touch judge intervenes, Mike English. 3 guys were Welsh, Ben Whitehouse, Dan Jones, and he intervenes, Keith Earls is gone, picks up the ball, goes up the field, scores a try. The problem here is they stopped it, and I know they're trying to. World Rugby are trying to speed up the process and try not to have intervention at times from TMOs and get the officials on the field to make decisions, particularly the referee. But he's got to let that play out, come back watching the TMO.
And then make a call.
And it shows that Dan Goggin didn't knock the ball on. It hit initially his shoulder, head made contact, his head probably touched the ball. Was Robbie Henshaw's hand maybe the last person to touch the ball? Because I was thinking then, is Keith Earls in front? So what they would have had to go back and then decide is Keith Earls in front? Was it a knock on? Was it Robbie Henshaw's pass when he got hit and the ball pops out? So you have a bit of a debate there, but it's not conclusive. So I think it's a try. It will be given as a try. Leinster kick into the corner, and after a number of phases, and I probably had a more issue with these. CJ Stander's locked onto the ball for 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, I thought it was Ty Byrne, but go on, yeah.
But then Ty Byrne is locked onto the ball for 3 or 4 seconds.
And it's not given.
Neither get rewarded.
Yeah.
And then a ruck or two later, it's a try in the corner. So, look, I have to be careful here because, for obvious reasons, I think Leinster are an incredible side, and they're a side that any player would love to be in because Leo Cullen and his coach have created an environment where...
Sorry, you have to be careful because people will call you Homer. Is that what...
A little bit, yeah. But at the end of the day...
I think that any objective Leinster supporter watching that thinks that
to be fair, a lot of people I thought they did. Now, there's no guarantee that Munster still would have won the game. I kind of agree that they would have been in a much better position.
Maybe I'm looking at it in too black and white.
No, look, I think they probably...
I think they probably would have won the game.
They probably would have won the game. There was like...
Leinster have that extra gear, though, is the thing. There was kind of like the sense that...
But Leinster didn't create a huge amount of chances as
Leinster played really badly. There was like 3 knock-ons in a 2-minute period in the first half. In that first 15 minutes...
What they are very good at, Ger, is staying composed, and their defence is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you know what? Their breakdown work is unbelievable. 64 from 64 rucks, resourced and won.
Yeah.
So they lost no ruck in the game.
Their defence is great when you're not getting yellow cards and you're collapsing scrums. Like everybody's defence is great when you're not being refereed.
I think the one that really kind of got to Munster players at the end was the 4th scrum.
Yeah.
And then it's at the back of the scrum and Munster gradually started to move forward and Ben Whitehouse is shouting at CJ Stander, use it.
Now the try comes off
that infuriates me.
I'm sure.
It did in watching games for any team.
Because he's not a coach.
The art of scrummaging is, I love it as a forward and whatever, but don't, after the 4th scrum, tell the number 8 to take it out to make the decision easier for you, that you don't have to sin bin someone or give another penalty.
That should have been a penalty try, and it should have been...
Well, if Stander leaves it in there and he isn't shouting at Stander to use it, I think the scrum is disintegrating again. It's a penalty try and it's a yellow card.
Yeah.
Leinster down to 14 with 12, 14 minutes left, or whatever the time was. Matheson does score. They concede the 7, but they still have 15 on the field. Then Archer, ran across, blocked McFadden, which cost and took away a bonus point from. But Leinster are really good at their defence is phenomenal. They don't panic. So, we don't know, would they have, without those couple of scores and the bit of fortune that they got, part of me feels they still would have had an ability to turn it on when they needed to, because they're such a very good side, to be fair to them. But I think it's hard on Munster because they put so much effort and work into that and they didn't get the rewards. But I think they can take a lot of positives out of it. Going to Exeter, which is an incredibly difficult match for them next Saturday. But the refereeing and the officiating was shocking, to say the least.
What was Stephen Archer doing, though? That was brain dead, because he got away with it the first time.
It was interesting because it was highlighted. Liam Tolan spoke about it and he highlighted it.
Before it happened.
Before that one, and then does it again, and just, it's very obvious, you have to be so careful because he turns to the side. If you're running backwards towards the ball,
be a lazy runner all you want, right? Yeah. But
don't look at the player and turn side on and kind of, so that was crucial to him because putting it out to 8 points just give Leinster that little bit of breathing space.
It's game over.
Yeah, because look, even a 7-pointer, they're still winning the game. They don't really care whether, obviously they prefer Munster not to get a losing bonus point, but it doesn't really affect them. They're in a different conference. But it's the 8 point. It's 2 score scenario. Where 1 score, you're going 5 points in it. Munster have a chance to throw the kitchen sink at it and maybe force a penalty or, see
what happens,
Like into the corner or something. They have a chance, but 8 points is too difficult. But look, I thought he was outstanding, Archer, in fairness. It's just a pity that one mistake. I've been there, Ger, many times. You have a good game, you give away a stupid penalty and people remember that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's what happened, but I thought he was outstanding. And a lot of positives. Munster scrum, Munster line out. And look, it's not a true reflection because we're talking about the Leinster guys who are not there. You put a Ringrose back in there, a Furlong, Sexton. They're outstanding international players. Three of those guys, maybe Cronin might come back in.
Jordan Larmour.
They can, Jordan Larmour is a fourth, one with that bit of X factor.
And some of your bench is way better as well.
Well, that's the thing. The depth is the reason why Leinster are the best team in Europe. Like, I thought Josh van der Fleer, for example, was absolutely sensational when he came off the bench. I just want to get your take on Munster's midfield, because Tony Ward is writing in the Unit this morning that you couldn't pay him all the money in the world to give the correct take on what is Munster's best pairing in midfield. Like, what do you think?
Well, the problem they have at the moment is Jaco Tauta is just back from the knee injury, and it takes he's not as sharp as they would like, and it's a very difficult injury to come back. I had it before. You can get back after 5.5, 6 months nowadays from a cruciate, but it's getting up to that match speed and fitness, and he's probably a little bit away and had one or two little setbacks. Chris Farrell is, an incredible player, and I think he's a couple of weeks away as well. So if they were fit, and then you have Niall Scannell, Dan Goggin, Sam Arnold, you're probably going with a Rory Scannell and Chris Farrell are probably the two that you'd pick off on paper. I thought Dan Goggin, though, has shown really a lot of promise in the last few weeks. He was really good the other night, very powerful and physical. So I don't know their best pairing. They don't know it. And to be fair to Johan van Graan, he doesn't know it because they're not all available to him at once. Rory Scannell gives a great option with the left-footed kick. His distribution is another good option for him as well. So he very well could start this week. But it's an issue where that little bit of subtlety, that bit of class.
Pick the Irish back row for us now.
Well, I'm picking it on the basis of what they had last year and probably over the summer.
Everybody's suddenly fit for the first time ever.
Yeah, and they've got to play well. I thought Sean O'Brien was really good the other night and very competitive again and very physical.
Is he now number 8? Is that what we're looking here? He's an 8?
No, I don't think so. I think he can play in all three, and that's the versatility that he can bring. I think it's O'Mahony, Stander and Levy at the moment. I think Sean O'Brien needs to play a number of games. Like, there's absolutely no doubt he's a starter on the Irish team if he's number of games proven he's not carrying anything and can get through the 80 minutes. 7.
Right.
I think it's O'Mahony has to stay in the team, like it or not. Whether I think he's playing really well this year. But his line-out is sensational, and I think to give that extra option in the line-out, Peter O'Mahony has to play really poorly.
So it's 2 from Stander, O'Brien and Levy?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So look, there's a lot of options there. Rhys Ruddock is someone who's a really good player. Jack Conan's come back in the mix. As you say, Van der Fleer, loads of options. But at the moment, I think it's
there's one thing about what if they stay fit, when there's no chance they will because they play in such an abrasive position and their job is to hit and resource every ruck, and that just leads to wear and tear. But if they were all to stay fit, you now have a situation where you can pick, from an Ireland perspective, completely horses for courses. You can put Van der Fleer in your team and say, I want you to kill the 10. I just want you to do nothing today except kill the 10. And we've never really had this before, where we would always have picked our best players just to enforce our game. But you can suddenly begin to see these weird combinations, which maybe from the outside we're going, what's he doing here? But actually, as the game plan unfolds, you see that there's a method to the changes.
Yeah, I think I'm not a huge fan of horses for courses type selections at times.
Why not?
Based on...
You were always the victim of the...
No, I wasn't really. It benefited me in 2003 at the World Cup where we were playing Argentina, and I got picked at 7 ahead of Keith Leeson because I was deemed to be an extra line-out option, maybe a little bit more physical, whereas Keith was a real groundhog and stuff like that. So I benefited from your horses for courses type scenario. I mean horses for courses over form. So if Dan Levy's playing really well, Stander and O'Mahony, that you say, we're going to put in Josh van der Fleer because we want him to do it. There's a risk in that, but it does give an option. What it does with them all being fit, it enables Joe Schmidt to actually say, lads,
competition.
It needs your performance needs to be at 80, 90%, 95% today because, if not, the boys are chomping at the bit behind. And then you have options off the bench as well. And it makes great, what it does, Ger? It makes it really, really, really competitive in training. And that's sometimes where you see, if there's a 50-50 call, you see a bit of attitude, you see that extra bit of desire, and that sometimes can sway a coach. But unbelievable options. Like Van der Fleer started in Paris last year, got the knee injury, and then Dan Levy goes in this incredible run. He was injured post-Christmas last year. If you remember Dan Levy, he came back and played against Exeter in Dublin and was incredible for Leinster in December. So it can change very quickly, and certainly a lot of options there for him.
Two other quick things we want to talk about. Connacht's first win at Ravenhill in 58 years. They won 22-15 on Friday night.
I wasn't surprised.
It was kind of predictable in like a big shock that's in some ways predictable and expected after the previous week's performances, where Connacht were good but beaten relatively straightforward by Leinster, and Ulster were as bad as they've ever been in their history against Connacht. So
I thought the scoreline, the scoreline for the Leinster game against Connacht was possibly a little bit unfair. It was like we're saying it again. Leinster are so intelligent in managing and controlling a game, and Connacht, that scoreline could have been closer. But I wasn't surprised that Connacht went to Ulster, and because they're playing with a lot of confidence, even in defeat. A couple of games they lost. They were brilliant against the Scarlets. They seem to have a confidence about them, a self-belief that's back. They're executing pretty well. And I thought there's still, unfortunately, chinks in the Ulster armoury, and they have problems and issues there that are tough for Dan McFarland. They were really poor on Friday night, but Connacht held onto the ball really well, and it was a great win for them.
What's the biggest Ulster issue?
There's a few, I think. I just think their ability to score and control possession, and Billy Burns at 10, John Cooney, their ability to put him in the right areas in the field. He's very good with ball in hand, Billy Burns. And then probably what's happening up front, the delivery they're getting from scrums and lineouts is, these question marks have been with Ulster for years, their front five and their ability to have imposed themselves in the game, and I still think those issues are still there, unfortunately. And you can't just sign guys, or you can recruit really well, but they have a number of injuries there as well, and their issues from up front.
There's a 30 million redeveloped stadium plan for Connacht that has been announced. We'll get into that with Darren in a couple of minutes' time. But the other thing that we want to talk about is the there you go there. So planning application due for 30 million development sports ground. 12,000 capacity facility open to use by all sports. Greyhound racing to continue. Will also be a high performance academy. Agreement reached between Connacht Rugby and the Greyhound board and owners, which is great. So we'll talk about that a bit more in a couple of minutes' time. We also want to talk about this. It's the half-time. Australia 31-7 down, and it looks like Michael Cheika is about to get sacked. This is the half-time team talking. Cheika's a calm individual at the best of times. Well, then they come out and they win the game.
Yeah, they were 31-7 down at half-time, and an horrendous run. And he shows a lot of emotion, wears his heart in his sleeve. And he said this a number of times. Here's a coach who's a multi-millionaire, he's not in this for the money, for the job security. He's there. He shows that passion. Sometimes it kind of tips overboard. His heart is in the right place of what he's trying to achieve. Is he stubborn? Is he a bit too pragmatic at times? Possibly. But they've underperformed, and they've consistently shown vulnerability when the going gets tough. I think when on the Ireland tour, they got very excited about beating Ireland the first test when Ireland, Joe Schmidt had made 7 or 8 changes from the Grand Slam winning team. I thought they got carried away with themselves. They lost the second and third tests, and they felt hard done by a little bit. And so I don't know, there's been a fair few calls in Australian rugby
for him to go.
Yeah, for Michael Cheika to go. I'd be a fan of his as regards. I love that kind of passion that he has, and I know but if you lose the team and the results, you're based on results, they're not good enough. They've won 3 from 9 in their internationals this year.
We had Stephen Larkham on, you helped sort it out, and he come on and talked for half an hour. It's not like there isn't somebody in the setup who is a rugby genius brain, who's calm and composed, and there's yin to that yang, so it's not like the whole setup
might not suit him. Cheika's approach might not suit him. It doesn't, every coach is different, and every player doesn't, everyone in the whole squad doesn't love every coach, the coach at any given time, even if you're winning. So they have obvious talent, but I still think, a little bit like I was saying about Ulster up front, at times they're they're not powerful enough.
Simon Ziwa scored his 6th try of the season. It's been a real disaster for him so far.
Yeah. And got picked up an injury.
Is he all right?
Unfortunately, yeah, he had to go off as well. But yeah, I chat to Rog about it, and he keeps an eye because he's in Paris at the moment, and he thinks Zibo's flying it. He did brilliantly for that try. It was a 2-on-3, and he kind of glided.
You're going to see a lot of people looking at Simon Zibo going, yeah, I'll have a bit of that.
Yeah, you know the way everybody's like, we don't mind what the RFU do to make sure that Ireland win the World Cup next year, and you can rest players for all the big Heineken Cup games if you want. We don't care. Why don't they go the extra mile and say, we're going to relax the international rule, the people who have to play in our own grounds for this one World Cup, because it's our best ever chance of the greatest ever sporting achievement in Irish sport.
Maybe, but I don't think they will, and I don't think they should. I don't think they should, to be honest. I think I agree with the situation that it seems a bit unfair, and a lot of people don't agree with it. If you choose to go, you're kind of putting yourself in a position that the floodgates will open on if they relax it, and that's just a reality. Because the money like you can imagine Conor Murray now. I know he loves playing for Munster, but if he's told, look, you can we'll still pick you, yes, and he possibly could go up on that, you know. Yeah. That's where it's gone now. Yeah. So
and he's like,
I think they got to stick to that policy.
One last thing, Stade Francais head coach Heineken Mayer hails former Ireland star Paul O'Connell following the top 14 win over Castres at the weekend. He's very experienced, he brings a lot to us, especially in the line-out and the breakdown, but it's the culture, I think, is the main thing that he was talking about. It's not about the head coach, everyone plays a part. Paul brings a lot of experience to our team. That's not quite as effusive as the headline suggests, but there was a sense that he's raised standards across the board.
Away wins in the top 14 are kind of rare, and that is a mentality thing. And speaking to anyone, Mike Prendergast is there as well, and I'd be close to Mike as well, and Rog and Jeremy Davidson, and you meet these guys, Bernard Jackman, Dennis Fogarty was coaching there, and the one thing you get from all the time is the mentality of we're away from home. And sometimes the French coaches would pick a second string team and kind of go, well, we're going to lose this one anyway, and that's their approach. But to go to Castres, who are the champions, and get a result like that, I kind of know where Heineken Mayer is coming from.
Yeah.
It's changing the mentality of players that, like we had in Munster when we won European Cups, and like Leinster have, and they believe, look, there is challenging issues. You're playing a different stadium, crowd behind you, referee can sometimes be swayed, but control the controllables and believe you can get the result, and it does make a difference. And I watched some of that game yesterday, and Stade looked like from the word go that they were going to win the game.
When you consider that was a squad and a team that nearly didn't exist this year, that were going to be part of Racing, it's not a bad comeback. Have we got that image from Sean O'Brien's Insta? So O'Brien, obviously a little bit gassed, tongue out for 60 minutes, glad to be back at the Aviva in front of a massive Leinster rugby crowd. So he's basically saying that he was a little bit gassed for that. Quinny, thanks very much.
Pleasure, yeah.
We're going to play the rest of the rugby out here with Leo Cullen's take on the refereeing on Saturday night. Have a look.
It's when the scrums are spinning, and I'll go through this with John Fogarty in more detail, and certainly with the referee assessor, like we normally would after a game. But the way it's spinning, the officials are very hard on the defending team, is what it appears, because even we get a scrum penalty in reward to us when we've got to put in. So obviously with that sequence of scrums, the referees, even though the scrum is spinning, so I need to see what the attacking loose set is doing in those scrums, and why is it turning like that? Because the referee's just making a call then, and he's rewarding the attacking team every single time. So I'll look into it in more detail. I was trying to get my head around it even during the game. So as I said, we'll study in a bit more detail over the next few days.
That's genius. It's like no hint of us being in any way responsible for what went on, but they don't care because they won, and there was no losing bonus point for Munster. So the big dog in the relationship at the moment is Leinster, as we knew.